there is a capability that the capital can be deployed at the click of a button. But the only problem is
the stakes are big. You always have two choices, right? You would either pick the popular stuff that's happening. There's a very less chance that what you build make a big impact. If you pick a space which is more, let's say, unspoken of, there's a big opportunity if you like kill that space.
that if we connect these two worlds, especially when I say two worlds, TradFi and DeFi, I'm talking about the intel from the TradFi, leverage it in the DeFi world, something can be done to kind of solve the gap. And that's what we took a jab at Qiro.
But like starting from this point is that there's this trillions of dollars that are not off chain. And when we think about crypto in general, it's still a very small fragment of like traditional finance. But a lot of problems that we have to touch about traditional finance or so far, but really had expanded what crypto can offer is majorly because a lot of things are not so sexy. So just like it's hard to get that attention. Hard for that, how big you guys came about like credit and like a problem that's not so sexy and or about like building queue around it. That like what's truly the problem is.
Hmm. I think if I were to take a jab at it, I come with a fintech lending, capital sourcing kind of a background, worked with multiple tech companies, consumer lending, SME, corporate lending. My day in, day out job was to kind of, hit with these underwriters and figure out a way to kind of, get this case approved or like figure out the opportunity if we can build the loan to a particular borrower. So there is a certain set of processes which works in favor and then favor in terms of like, selecting out the borrower and rejecting a bad borrower. Then it's a framework basic. Ultimately, you come up with a particular problem statement like this is particular kind of a ticket size, that geography and all of that stuff you want to pick and choose, and then you grow from there and then eventually expand also in different use cases. But when it comes crypto, it is at an early stage, and then the capital sits on sale, and then there is a capability that the capital can be deployed at the click of a button. But the only problem is how do you deploy that capital to the right set of bar? That's when you need to kind of leverage that off-chain intel who kind of enable that credit underwriting infrastructure in the DeFi space. That's what kind of we realized in the early days, and that's what we took a jab at Qiro. That if we connect these two worlds, especially when I say two worlds, TradFi and DeFi, I'm talking about the intel from the TradFi, leverage it in the DeFi world. There can be done something can be done to kind of solve the gap, and so that it will help us grow the crypto industry in general. That's what my take is basically.
Yeah, so for me, like when I always used to think about building something, you always have two choices, right? You would either pick the popular stuff that's happening. So if I think about like what are the chances of this going big is right because if there's a space with like 100 people building for it, there's a very less chance that what you build is gonna like make a big impact because you would just make like a uh one like 10% 20% kind of improvement to what exists already, right? But if you pick a space which is more, let's say, unspoken of, where there's not a lot of people trying to solve that, there's a big opportunity if you like kill that space, right? And that's what we saw with uh like tokenized assets or credit in general, that no one's talking about it. So I think if we could go, and because it's a hard problem, as you mentioned, it's an unsexy problem to kind of solve. So if we solve it, the stakes are big, and we could actually make more impact with that rather than going and solving for like just a basic improvement right in the existing solutions. So I think that is like a biggest motivation to pick that problem, which is unsexy, but again, like it would be a big thing if kind of goes and it works well, basically. Yeah. And what do you think was like the hardest part, like in getting this problem through, like in our conversations, like describe how hard it initially was, or just to get the messaging out there, or the few tweaks that you felt like along the journey or maybe you got to, uh, you adopted that kind of allow you to better tell a story. So basically, when we started pitching, right, what we would do is like initial months we were directly jumping at underwriting, which is basically like the base of Qiro is like how do you price assets in general, right? But we were very focused on the areas that we know, like talking about fintech industry, defaults, etc. But what we realize over the time is that crypto investors think in a very different way, or even like the way current industries, like you, if you talk about lending, people think of Aave. So they won't think of defaults in general because, and even if there's an industry that exists in terms of loans to like real world assets or like off chain companies, that's still a very small fragment. So we had to first like get people to uh, that opportunity, right? That what exists there. Like we had to tell them the basic difference between the collateralized loan and uncollateralized loan, and why underwriting is required in the latter part, and what impact it has, right, in terms of the asset selection and all, and that how it ultimately transforms to the returns they make. And second, the money they can lose, right, which is the most important piece in credit, is that you need to get the money back, and that was not working well. And that, I think, we had that journey of like at least 3 to 4 months to end up get to that part where we would hit the right spot, that why this thing matters to investors than like kind of going deep in the tech part of it was.
And I think before, like jumping into that investors part and like we started pitching before even that, like it was for me, like I felt that, it was challenging to kind of make people understand also like how things work in a TradFi world and try and understand what that world is all about, and fine tuning that gap was the first challenge. Once we kind of, once we understand both parts of the world, now then what all pieces to pick and choose and how do you stitch that? Because in the early days, what will happen is you will try and do anything and everything. So then you need to find a focus that what is that you want to pick and choose one particular thing. And that's when I think this pitching kind of thing helped us, because they will ask the certain questions. Then based on which we get the feedback, it kind of enables the feedback mechanism. It's a design improving process ultimately. And then you come to a place that, okay, this is something which you need to focus on.
Say. Really. And you, so do you want to zoom in the part where you said like the TradFi back Spain TradFi? I want to love to know a little bit more about your story of like how Akshay Skar was, how Nishikant still was. We sort of even like end up being where like starting Qiro. Like just let's roll back a little bit. Where you started, what were the motivations, how what your journey, like a few challenges that you picked up, and all of that kind of like now consolidates into what went on to the Qiro auction.
Right. I think as per as my educational background is concerned, I'm a computer engineer. But like the reason I opted for a computer engineering was because like I was fond of games. And then when I entered into computer engineering, I realized that it's not just about games, it's more than that. And then suddenly I realized, like I'm more interested towards management kind of a stuff, like managing events, activities, people and stuff. Because I used to like be active in my college days, doing all these different kind of activities, attending workshop, organizing workshops and different kind of stuffs. And then because of which I realized that there is something called a startup, because one of the speaker who came to our college who was part of one of the event, he was talking about startups, like entrepreneurships and all of that stuff. And then I ended up, working with my friend, figuring out, like how we can do something around the startup space. And then he said, like, no, I have an idea and stuff. So I kind of joined hands with him just to get an experience. And parallelly, uh, there was this program by entrepreneurship bootcamp by Stanford, and different kind of design and innovation bootcamp by MIT Media Lab. So which kind of gave me an exposure in the world of, like, how to build startups from scratch, how to convert ideas from idea to reality, rapid prototyping and all of that stuff. So by that time, while I was in the third year of engineering, I was very clear that I want to do my start. But then I was not sure how to go about it. Although I know the stuff now, how things work in the startup world, but how to go about it. The easiest way was to kind of, join the startup. So I kind of joined a early stage startup uh, in the back in 2016, which was like India's one of the early first consumer durable lending startup. At a click of a button, you were getting loan, which was unheard of. Even the Flipkarts and Amazons of the world back then were not offering that lending product, which kind of gave me an entry to the fintech lending world, which started with the consumer lending. Then eventually I ended up working for a SME lending fintech and then corporate lending fintech. Then in my last stint, I worked as a capital sourcing head, and embedded financing also is something which I was following. So by this time, I worked across early stage company to about to become a decopon company about they're launching an IPO. So it kind of gave me an experience across different kind of work setups, loss making company to a profitable kind of a company. So closely work with the founders. So which gave me an idea how to run a company, how to turn small business into like a unicorn and a like a pawn kind of a business. So I just got to see that journey. So then it made me more sure that I want to start my startup. And eventually, I met Nishikant. Like I think 3 or 4 years ago first time, and then we kept in touch and we used to chat about how things work in TradFi, how things work in DeFi. And I think it was like a time that both of us were looking for something to build and enjoying hands, and we started Qiro back in 2023 April.
Yeah, so for me, I think if I look at where I'm right now, I would have never I never thought of becoming a founder when I was studying or working. Uh, I'm also a computer engineer, so I studied in Pune, graduated in 2020. I also took the basic. Uh, I got always interested in data in general, so work around data science AI when I was in college. I used to build like small projects around computer vision, that how you would like I even remember one thing that I built which was very interesting back in college, that if you see a video, let's say you are just looking at a TikTok reel, right, and you feel that the dress that the model is wearing is cool, you would be able to just buy it, right? Like looking at the video. So we built like a recommendation engine which would just take data from the video and recommend like fresh data from the marketplaces and give you the link, like you can just buy it quickly. So I built those like small projects early on, which were more in like data or like things around that, but never thought of like building like a product around it. It was just for fun. So I joined a company after college, which was into product engineering. So there I got introduced to finance, where I worked on insurance products, helping institutions like financial institutions in the insurance space to manage risk, where we were using NLP and other things. So there I got to know that how you actually use data to make decisions, right, in businesses, or like make impact and like risk management, or like creating like finding customers, etc., right? So that was very interesting. Parallelly, I got introduced to DeFi. I got to learn about DeFi farming. First I thought like what is this like farming, and also I did spend like almost I think a year in 2020, like just before the DeFi summer started. I spent like time reading books that how Ethereum works, what's the block like, right? The block structure. So I took that kind of time to like once you go in that rabbit hole, right? You just want to like go deep. Even like read about economics, that why game theory works, the prisoner's dilemma and all, right? It was very cool. So then I realized that this is something new that I never knew of, and this is like something to build for, right? And like just I just wanted to get into the space, not become a founder, but just like maybe become a dev, because I had the coding background. But luckily, I ended up joining a venture capital fund called Gravitex Capital, where it was just starting. So I got to do a lot of things like talk to founders, source deals, like wear many hats, right? And I used to learn every day that what's happening on the edge, right? Because we were getting pitches every day. People trying to build like what Terra did, right? Like versions of Terra and like everything, right? So it was very cool. That I think that was like a turning point for me to even think of being like a founder, because I was talking to founders all day, like learning about their problems, helping them to talk with more VCs, or even evaluating if they would make it or not, right? Which was a cool job for me. And then eventually Akshay, I met Akshay where he was advising us on the fintech side of the companies, which were like more like Web2 companies trying to use blockchain. So that's where we found that okay, we have like complementary skill sets, and then eventually like I came to kind of like starting Qiro with Akshay.
Do you think like working very closely with founders yourself, that kind of like makes the job easier when you are starting up yourself, or every song has a completely different learning curve?
I think working with the founder, or for a fact that there is someone you can kind of discuss, debate, and like contemplate and all of that stuff is very important. Otherwise everything is in your head if you are going on everything on your own. I'm not saying that there are no solo founders, they can't make it, but it's always helpful that sometimes you're going through a bad phase, sometimes you're going to a good phase. So if both there are two like more than one person is like quoting on the same idea, then there is someone to kind of share ups and downs, and at the same time you think in a particular direction, but you are blind because you're in love with that particular idea and that experiment. And then the other founder comes with a complementary skill set, and then the person identifies whether this is something this is not good, or maybe this is something this is how it needs to be tweaked. So it kind of optimizes the process of going in the right direction. It kind of helps you point in the right direction. So that's how I look at it when you have a co-founders rather than working with.
I think for me, like interacting with founders, I think has been the best way for me to learn, because I mean, I have spoke to people who talk about things like, okay, you could read this book, right? That 21 ways to build a company had a pot or right. But I think what I found most helpful is like just talking with builders out there, because then you ultimately get to see what problems they have, right? I mean, how do you how do you not spend money on how to save money on AWS, right? You don't read that on in a book, right? You actually need to talk to people who have lost their money, or like they know how to like find ways, right, to make it work, how to survive, right, how to get the best hires. I mean, you can read all of those things, right? I mean, you can just create like perfect JDs and all, but if you have listened to the stories with founders that how people typically work, or you how do you get the best people, right? So I think learning from experience of people who have done it is like 100 times better than just referring to like a Bible, right? That okay, that says that you do these 10 things and you would be next Elon Musk. I think that never works. So I think I was like very lucky to like actually work with exceptional people very early on, who actually now are doing great. I mean, I met them early when they were just starting, and I have seen them go from like 0 to 100. So I think that is something that is like irreplaceable. I think that's a good way to go about building. I think you should work with founders at least few months, so you would see the grind that how exactly it is. Because and I also other point is like starting a company from outside seems very like it feels like the grass is very greener, right? But once you work with founders, then you know that like it's the hell, right? And I think all of us can agree, all of us can agree to that. Like if you just wake up one day and feel like this is the best thing, and then one day you are like, okay, my life is shit, like I don't know what to do. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's my experience.
That reminds me, one of the very on ways I meant they used to talk about is that having a founder title is the easiest thing, because nobody is stopping you from putting a founder title of anything. Where it was the hardest road to manifest a living thing, to where within so much grind work, so much different kind of like rules that you have to follow when you from Gyro with my E very often is that the easiest like the easiest thing from me would have been if I could just be way past based on what my skill set is. Uh but one day you're a counselor to your employees, the other day to our account, the other day you are studying legal with your legal team to understand. It just like takes up that so many different things. Interesting. Um and like we had this like your main expertise solving a very I feel, as we said, an impactful problem, which is also has this huge scale of growth. How do you think all of that, even having those, was a great kind of starting point? But how did getting into the lies sort of transformed your journey? And like, word up about how was the process of getting in, and before that and after that, how was the
I think as far as the alliances journey is concerned, if I remember correctly, uh, so obviously like interview process and all, like you submit your application and all of that stuff. But then when you get on a call, they'll not ask like a standard template kind of questions. Then we uh, it's there is no thumb rule that this is how your alliances interview is going to go. Then they'll ask you very specific questions, and they'll more rely on, like, if there is something, some interesting stuff with the founders, like different kind of stuff, right? Once you pass that stage, I think only and only when you go to the program, then only you understand the importance and the impact it creates in your startup journey or as a founder. Well, what will happen, uh, whatever the journey it is, like before getting into that, so there is a certain thing in your mind, like when it comes to alliance, the there are like more than 300 founders or like companies I have invested in, sorry, and thousands of applications they have gone through. So they have more information than you can think of any particular kick-ass founder or a community. So it's they will have a best possible feedback for you, which will help you move in the right direction. That's for sure. And so it's basically no bullshit feedback, straight to the point, even if it's good or bad, and focus on doing one particular thing. Again, like that is another thing which we got to learn from Alliance, that just focus on one thing rather than doing 10 different things. Another thing which I got to learn is we got to learn from alliances, until and unless you do the PML, don't hire like team like Craig. Just work on optimal resources. It's always good if founders can only do it, but obviously like there are limitations in it, and so depends on the idea. Try and work with the optimal resources. So yeah, these are a few of the things about the alliance program, and ultimately there are mentors. You can kind of talk to them, whatever the doubts are there. You kind of discuss with them. You kind of build a rapport, and then in a very casual way, you are actually discussing public. It's not like a school that there are sessions which are happening. Obviously, there is certain agenda, and then you get to learn about marketing, like how to kind of build a mullet to PR strategy, how founder relationship works. So probably some founders are facing problem, but they are not able to solve it. So if they understand how other founders are dealing with a bad session, you get to learn that. So they say like legal is a different rabbit hole altogether. So like, and again, like Web3 legal and DeFi legal is it's different ballgame altogether. No one knows like how exactly it is going to get solved. Then probably there is an expert who has already gone through that 300 portfolio companies, how the medial is working. He'll be the right person to talk about. So obviously, like, we're lucky to be a part of that program, and like that kind of helped us to refine a lot of things.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about Alliance is, and we got rejected twice, by the way, and then we got in. So, and it's a, I think now they have reduced their application, but I think back then it was crazy. I mean, it would take like a day to like answer all the questions. But the most important thing about Alliance is, even if you just fill their application right, you would just identify so many issues with your idea or thinking. Like they ask the best questions. They used to, I mean, I don't know what's the current application look like, but the previous one that we filled had like so many questions. It goes through like your thinking, what you have done in past, like anything, right? So it's good actually, like just for you to like take a test, kind of like what you have done and what you're gonna do, right? So that was very interesting. uh Also, the way Alliance work is they don't have this structure to their program, right? I mean, they do have a structure, but it's not like you are gonna do like 20 sessions. There is a expert that you are assigned, and then you just work on that. Rather, everyone in Alliance team, even if there are mentors, they would first try to just talk about like what you're trying to build, right? And then go from there. They are not just sitting there with like a rule book that, okay, you want to do this thing and then you are succeeding, right? Most of the times, I think Chao says is a lot is like they just act as a therapist to the founder. They just want to listen to the problems that, okay, tell us what is happening, because like how lonely it gets, right? When you're building things, right? You can't just talk to anyone and everyone, because you don't know like how people will react. So they have made that safe space for founder. Everyone in Alliance can just go and talk to them, like anyone in the team, and people will give like honest opinions. I think what Akshay said, right? They will not beat around the bush. They will just give you what it straight to your face, so you know that what you need to act upon. They will not sugarcoat anything. I think that is the best thing about them, that helps founders move very fast. And third thing is, they are the best to work with. And then if you are building anything in crypto, I think they have the best resources, best network, that you would need actually like initially to like go from idea to execution, and the basics are very sorted. So I think that's something that every founder needs. So kind of good to work with them always. Yeah.
So the no bullshit thing reminds me of that was the key to me part of the NSMDT presentation. And first day we got into the ad fun and that Charles like everybody got to pitch like what they're building in 1 minute, and the problem that they're solving, the name, where they're from, and why the we founder. It's just like it's like you go into a PT round and Senator start says no I'm here gonna do the drills, and then he was so blunt, or that it was like an icebreaker right into the program. Some people were walking in with their suitcase, landed just from apply, and now right you go and like explain what you're doing in 1 minute. And then that you like changed for like broke the biases of a lot of people of what they came with, because like the first instance was this was not the look. And I do agree that that's beautiful part. And like my one of my friends recommended when we started Vinamip was like do fill it the YC application if you did want to kind of pin down into your problem statement. I think when it comes to crypto, like filling that previous alliance application was that exactly 40 odd persons, or was the like biggest challenge, or like the best opportunity captured you they which shows resilience, creativity, some things like that. Think portions like that really compel me to think. So it's, yeah, I be it's like very interesting.
And I think one best thing about Alliance is they always look for people trying to create new categories. I think I mean, they I think one of the very few investors who actually would back. Uh, they don't actually go after trends. I think what I've seen so far with Alliance is they have actually created categories like Pum.Fun came out of that, right? Like now they always fund crazy ideas like which I mean are not so popular, but again like they would make it I mean popular. I mean they have that kind of resources. I mean Alliance has that cult. I mean yeah. So I think that's an amazing thing actually. Like even if someone, because typically like generally the VC industry it works like people would just follow trends, right? But these guys are very basic, like they think on fundamentals. If that checks in, they'll just like I mean take in founders. I think that's the best thing about that.
Amazing. That was feel one very interesting part of what Chow talks about here in section also on is that there she had a ways like hierarchy of founders relationships. Either you do have founders I like to know the relationships. So either your siblings or you have big long term PEs, your big best friends. Those are like say uh, like a tier one of common relationship, second is solo founders, and the third and the worst is like common just friend. And then part of the hackathon startup. Now ringing on after this, what's that one thing that I know being here? Say that this is the person I want to started with, and what where did that like on relationship you started be or what like you sound like stopping your DM.
I think for me, I know Nishikant from last couple of years, and the organization we used to work with, like the Gravity X Capkey. So I know that from like over the period of decade. So trust was something is very important, like for me to kind of work with any person. So trust was any like by the point to assault. But the major thing was the complementary skill set. For me, that was like a thing that I am an expert in a certain key, and Nishikant comes with certain set of expertise. Is that the guy like who comes with an expertise when it comes to Web3, crypto, anything in general because of his previous VC background? He has a deep understanding of that market. Maybe it's DeFi, maybe it's NFTs, maybe it's anything and everything over there. So he understands that part. So that was like a best part for me, like from my angle. Actually, it's a complementary skill set he brings in when I'm talking about the who do I want to go from this company?
Yeah, I think even for me, I think the trust part was most important because uh, what I've seen so far in my journey, even with the VC role, right, is that people change ideas often. You pivot, right? So the most important thing is you need to work with people who have that resilience, or you can actually like trust them that okay, they will not uh like leave or like leave the table, right, if when things get hard. I think that's the most important thing. So I think that we always had that I mean, we actually built that trust when we started. We spent a lot of time even not in a formal like founder relationship, but just trying to figure out the market, figuring out the things. I think with that process we realized that okay, this is something that we should do together. I mean, we are like the best two folks, right, to work on this problem. I think you have to just make that choice, right? I mean, as you mentioned, like siblings and like having that very basic trust that okay, if even if anything goes wrong, this person is gonna stay, right? So I think that thing was like the, I would say, the biggest motivator for me to like work with Akshay. And again, I think other things are like having that kind of uh, different view on things, right? Which is very important because when you build things, you have like a certain set of thinking that because I come with a certain background, I will always think in that manner. But having that diverse background helps you to think in different manner, and that is very important because we often get lost. Like when you are building a very delusional, right? You would just think in one tunnel focus manner that okay, this thing has to work, but you need to have that critic in your house, right? That will just tell you that okay, this is not gonna work or this is gonna work. So I think that thing we have very good because he comes with his own different background. He has spent time in different organizations who has a very different way of working. I have spent most of time in Web3 actually, like 80% of my career is in Web3 actually. So you know how the industry works. Right? It is very flexible. So we have had that time like getting adjusted to that. But we I mean, it's actually lucky that we have like both side of knowledge, and that helps us a lot to like move forward fast. Even when we deal with like institutions, right? So we know that how to deal with them because Akshay has spent time like getting deal with them. And when we are talking with the audit firm, right, we know that what we need to talk. So we have that expertise in house. Yeah. So that's the best thing.
I have so you got about like that relationship and how it was. What you guys say one thing about DeFi that they part the most astounding, and on your part, one thing about TradFi that Ninpan way like surprisingly not so like assumption that we had before, but it's kind of like after you start working on Qiro, it's like on like point check file, boom, like this also.
Yeah, I think for me, like I said earlier, so I come with a TradFi and lending kind of a background. There are certain way things work, but when it comes to DeFi, when I got introduced to this world, so person sitting in Africa, person sitting in US or in any part of the world, they can plug and play with a wallet and how that particular product is in between a marketplace, lending, borrowing, staking, trading, anything is happening at a click of a button. You can do anything. Like in simple example of a lending, the borrower could be in some part of the world and the lender slash like the investor could be in sitting in some part of the world. So it was kick-ass for me. Like otherwise everything has to be like in-person interaction and all of that stuff. So it's basically a different world altogether solving that particular problem in a different fashion. So that was like a interesting stuff for me. And then I got curious, okay, how do we can solve a particular problem which is not being solved in the TradFi setup? Is it possible to solve with a new age DeFi, crypto, like Web3 kind of a medium or no? And that's why it kind of, I kind of got hooked onto that particular thing and then I started digging deeper into it and here we are like when we link here.
I think for me, like not just TradFi, but in general Web two, right? The way people solve problems has always been more, I would say, hard for them. I think like it is very easy in Web three to actually get things rolling because it's kind of the market it is, right? If you build right things, you would get to a certain point very fast. And like because having like a monetary aspect to everything, like people attach token to everything, that has made things relatively easy for some of the use cases. Some of the use cases are still like hard, but in Web 2, when you see products, right, even people trying to build like small product, like I learned about companies, when talking Berkshire, companies trying to lend to like everyday vegetable sellers, right? Or like credit products which are like very grassroots focused. And I mean, they're just amazing, right? They don't have any data, nothing. They have just built niche models, and then they solved issues, right? Which would just like uh bring like money for the people who are just like fighting for it, right? So I think what I've seen in traditional finance is like there's like huge amount of foundation that is built, and on top of that people have built products, right? And the scale is amazing as well. Even when I learned about securitization or credit in general, right? So I mean, the market is huge. Like, still they operate on like systems which are comparable to like how Windows XP would work, right? But I mean, they're still working. So I mean, even if TradFi is like seem as like this broken system, right? But still, I think with the foundations, there are few things that just work, and which is very amazing. I mean, it's very surprising that it works, right? So that's a cool thing about, I would say, like the Web 2 world, that it's structured, and like some things work amazingly well in that market basically. Yeah.
And talking about like say you talked about the general photopatient behind starting hero, we talk about the genuine true relationship and like the evolutions you've gone through. Now is the cup to talk about and you are pitching to somebody what hero is. What would your like elevator pitch be?
Okay. So my elevator pitch to anyone about Qiro is that if you are an investor or a protocol, right, trying to lend money to real world borrower, be it institutions, consumer, anything that is off chain, and you're trying to bring it on chain, Qiro is the layer for you to underwrite that. So you can think of consumer loans, DePIN loans, invoice financing, supply chain financing, anything that is a real world credit product and you want to bring it on chain. Qiro is the infrastructure for you to enable the risk management part of it, underwriting, pricing the asset, monitoring, everything that has to do with the risk. Qiro provides that.
There is a reservation when it comes to, Web3, that, when anything which is off chain, like, because there are a lot of operational things and everything is off chain, how do you kind of connect? So Kiro, in a way, like, if I have to fit, so it's basically you'll make your life easier. You're sitting with a capital, and if you're looking for yields, double-digit kind of yields. So we are that intermediary infrastructure who will manage that end-to-end hashing and who collects both parts of the world, TradFi and EFI, in a fashion that you would be able to trust that particular transaction or a system, not because of the people and the experience and all. It's mainly because we work in a data oriented and like a but certain ways which are working in the traditional world. We bring that intent in our system. So because of which you can rely, one because of the technology, and second because there is a network effect which we are trying to build, which is credit underwriting in the software. So in a way, like we can connect any of the RWAs with the like on-sale capital which is sitting with you per eeks, and we are that middleware you can task.
I think that this could solve the answer, or people can come and question, they ask question, where do you come from? So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah. Qiro is that solution which will tell you that where the yield is coming from. Yeah, that's it.
yes. Moving on, what do you feel is like the most exciting journey from at this point onwards? Now there's a problem. You have identified that problem. You have put the solution for head. You have the right factors to kind of amplify that usually. What is the most exciting kind of like next steps for you from there?
I think as far as the journey till now is considered, like, like we were figuring out what to build. From then we pitched to a lot of VCs. We fine-tuned our idea, what we want to solve, and from then we raised pre-seed round. From then, I think we built product, we built team. We are at a stage where we are launching this month, tested early next month, the mainnet. So eventually from here, it will kind of help us understand further fine-tune what we are talking about. So what exactly will work? So right now we're talking about a marketplace where the capital can be deployed, stable files, can be deployed in a real world opportunities and we get certain returns. But then how we are doing it is not like typically just plug and play wallet and we just randomly trust on a particular party who is saying that this is a good originator. But there is a infrastructure which we are paying. But file tuning that infrastructure will help us go in the longer run. And replicating that infrastructure which we have built and other marketplaces can also leverage that infrastructure as an open infra is going to kind of, take us to like next level is what I think.
Yeah, so I think if I have to summarize, right, where what we are going to do next in next couple of months or maybe 6 months from now is like uh 2024 for us was mostly building. So whatever we had as an idea on paper, we have uh like transformed that into a complete product that is ready to be launched. We are going on testnet. You will be live in like couple of weeks, and then I think mainnet followed by that. The idea is that we have the product, we have initial users as well. We have signed customers who would be live once we go on mainnet. So now the only thing that is like the goal for us is like getting distribution, getting like more and more folks to use the product. And second is kind of establishing that mind share, right, for Qiro and also the category that you are building, the real world asset backed loans, right, which is basically a kind of space that is evolving right now. So I think those two things are very important, like getting as many people to use Qiro, get that feedback, improve the product so that it becomes the best from now on. And then second is like creating this mind share, right, within DeFi and like the broader crypto community, that what problem we are trying to solve, why underwriting is important, kind of getting to like bigger protocols as well, like the people issuing stable coins. We want to be there, like how do you manage the risk better, right, with the real world assets. So I think that's the goal for now. Yeah.
And what for you are snack or a personal drivers for you outside of Hero, outside of Pixel work abilities that kind of helped you to keep going forward as a group founder? That it can do how that days. What is that one thing or drivers, the activities that you love that are moving forward?
So for me, it is always sports. I have been a sportsman my whole life. I used to play football, cricket when I was in school. I have represented on like district, state level as well. So uh, playing is something. I mean, playing sports is something that kind of keeps me sane, I would say. So even right now, I would like spend at least an hour going to gym. I box as well, so I'd spend time sparring, just like going there. And so that helps me a lot to like, even after like a very long day, I'll just take that 1 hour break to just recharge myself, right? And that keeps me, I mean, it helps to keep my health good as well, but otherwise it helps me to like get out of that zone, right, where you are always thinking about like the work and like the problems around it. So I think that's like the thing. And I think apart from that, I always try to keep in touch with my old friends who don't have anything to do with crypto. They would just ask me when the market is up that, okay, what's those coin, and like why there are AI agents, right? So uh I spend time with them so that I can like uh be like in that uh I would say like different zone, right, where I don't have to like just think about the market and the things. Because uh as a Web3 founder, you have to be on online every moment, that you just keep checking Twitter, what everyone is saying. There's so much information being bombarded. So I just take that time to like connect with family and friends, so that just to like get back and then I think then I'm good to go back at work. Yeah.
I think for me, I got so much involved in this credit kind of a world that I have spent almost a decade in this particular space. So all the time I try and figure out different ways to kind of look at it. For me, it was different way to solve the same problem. And now that you're seeing that blockchain is going to be the future, Web3 is going to be the future. Like even the traditional institutes are going to adopt that at certain point of time. Everything get will get on blockchain and everything will get tokenized and stuff. So eventually, if you are saying that that is going to happen, it is happening. Someone has to come and solve for that, right? So if I know for a fact, okay, there are certain things which I already solved, and if I can leverage that from the TradFi world and solve it over here, is the problem, solving that particular problem until the time I saw it. So that is kind of giving me a tick to kind of keep going. In the journey, like a lot of time people are saying that what are you even talking about? This is not even required. Why is it going to solve that? It is hard. How do you want to solve that? We were very sure for the fact that this is what we want to solve. Probably you might need to fine tune it, but we want to solve this. But then that kick that I want to solve this problem regardless of how hard or how easy that problem, and that kind of kept me going. Here we are, and I think it's a long journey, and not many things are underway. And as in the across that bridge, there are so many problems that we try and solve.
And do you think this obsessiveness is an important uh, characteristic, particularly when you're trying to within each correctly solving in the falcon? Or it sometimes pulls you back if you get too much consumed that people are not ready to leave.
I think the obsessiveness is very important, but at one point of time, you also need to understand that you have to stop somewhere else, kind of solve that. If you just keep thinking that, or you get obsessed, and like even if you're doing something wrong, you are not able to accept that okay, this is wrong. You have to find to it, you have to change it, you have to pivot it. That obsessiveness till that extent is good, but beyond that, okay, I won't be able to change that. This is how I will be funny or if I fail. Clearly, you're saying that this is not the right way to go about it, or the problem you're solving. You need to kind of adopt that. So you need to be adaptable as well, along with the obsession. About it.
I think I agree to that. I mean, obsession is very much required because whenever you are trying to do something new, right, there are always gonna be people telling you. I mean, most of people will tell you that it's not gonna work, and I think that is the reason. Actually, I mean, sometimes it actually good to be obsessed so that you stick to your point and you actually go out and prove it. I mean, it's either you fail or pass. I mean, that's another story. But you at least you should put in like maximum efforts in that problem, right? Trying to make it work. If it works, then I think that's the best thing. So I think obsession is required, and parallelly, I think you need to have certain people or like certain guiding factors to you that will also help you to like come back to, like, if you are lost, right, completely, you should have like some mentor at least for that purpose, that okay, if you feel that okay, I can trust what this person is saying at least on a fundamental level, right? So I think that is also important, but I think it's very important to have obsession. I think that what keeps you like to the hard times, right? If you are not obsessed, then I think there will come a point that where you will just say that okay, I'm just giving up on this. I think that's what happens with many of folks. So yeah, be obsessed. I think that's the game. Yeah.
And right to something at this board, like is something you calculate to, but do you think that it is that's to be an Indian founder, or you have to fight a certain bias, or it's just an excuse people use to not get fast at initial challenges? What would be?
So I think it's a perspective kind of a thing. Like, if you look at from an Indian standpoint, then there is a huge talent pool. Like people are so many talented people are there, even in the smaller cities and stuff. And then you have to prove upon it. Like there is a like a there is a huge set of people who are doing good, although India is a huge country. Then you have to kind of cross that bridge, and then you need to be on the top to kind of to get attracted by the VC or try and solve that particular problem. But if you look at it from a global perspective, what happens is so the trust is something which you need to build uh, from a global standpoint, because it's a different. Again, I'm talking again from an angle that most of the capital sits in the western part of the world compared to the eastern part of the world. And already there is an ecosystem which is built. Already there is a lot of innovation which is happening. Why will they trust you or the local like environment when someone who is sitting in say like thousands of miles away from me? So you have to kind of build that trust, and you need to kind of understand that world out here. So that once you learn that thing, and then you as an Indian, you are brought up in a certain way that you talk in particular fashion, you eat, or you work in a particular path. But the way things work over there probably are different. So once you understand that part, only and only when it will help you kind of grow to the next level and like integrate work in an integrated fashion for the different point of view.
I think there is some barrier when you are trying to, I mean, this is what we experience as well when we are trying to raise capital, is like uh, there is some sort of, I would not say that it's a, that and that bias, there is some bias when it comes to like, because of like being like so far on the Western world, they do have their own reservations, right, about uh, the way things work here, right? So I think that did play a bit of a part, but I don't think that it should be. I mean, most of the time, I think it should be I mean, it's an excuse from people that okay, if we are coming from a certain background, then we are not being treated well, or right, something like that. Uh, I think as founders is like it's on us that whatever we are building, right, we should be able to sell it to everyone, regardless of what part of world they are from, or regardless of where we are, right? I mean, ultimately, it's the what you have built should be so much. I think that there is saying, right, that be fucking impossible to ignore. I think that's what we have to do. But I think one thing that, as I mentioned earlier as well, that uh, Indian education system teaches you to be very elaborate about everything. I think that, and that actually is becomes like a big problem when you're trying to talk with people mostly from the West. I think if you kind of get passed through, I think then it's actually it's actually very easy to raise money until it is not again. But yeah, so so you can always, I think you have to put in the work, and I think it's actually good to have that chip on shoulder, right? It actually keeps you going faster. Yeah.
And I think as an Indian, the upside is like, you kind of have that attitude right when from the beginning that, when you're a kid and like growing up and all of that stuff, never give kind of a, which kind of helps. That's what I have realized on this.
That's nice. Never give up, please. Never give up. Yeah. Like it's like the more rugged you get, the better you get.
Yeah, exactly.
There is so it's like every time you fall, you got to stand up, and maybe you are like smarter now to next time or fall. On like say no standard.
In general, I feel Indian folks are like street smart and then I never give up kind of attitude.
But yes, so I really like that part is I kind of like nuanced understanding of who your target audience is ultimately allows you to capture like what you need to do. I think so. Like I'm sure there are ways when you identify how do you build trust. Is this famous saying when you get an option to take a meeting, if you get blind in person, then do that. Yeah, it's just those small kind of things I believe they allow you to build that trust, which you said. And in a conversation mentioned, like typically you ended up having all American investors. And I think so. You guys did a phenomenal job. So congratulations of that. Sounds good. What do you think are like the easiest pitfalls as a founder when you like are trying to build on an idea, especially in early stages from your perspective? Like even with all the experience that you come with, domain expertise you can come with, what are still the easiest pitfalls you can
I think the easiest pitfall is what will happen is when you're at the idea stage, you're obviously like not clear on what you're working, right? It's an idea. It's not final stuff, right? And then eventually what will happen is like people will fight a lot. And that's a good and bad both things. I mean like fight for a right thing, fight for figuring out what to do, but not fight for like disagreement. Okay, how come like these are all the experiences I had? You're discarding them. But probably that is not relevant over here. So that's the easiest thing which will happen is what I feel. But at the same time, that's how you understand and kind of try and figure out uh like the I mean try and figure out the other person, which will kind of fine tune your communication, your relationship when you're building a couple.
Yeah, I think the pitfall that seems very like like much likely to happen to me is that most of times you choose to, like, let's say you have a thesis, right, that okay, I want to build XYZ thing, and then the best way to go about it is actually like just build an MVP, right, and then test it out fast. But typically we always want to be like that perfect engineer, right, that would do everything right. So I have actually like went through that once or twice where I would just want to like build a thing so perfect that I would just spend like 30 days more on that. Otherwise, it would have been done in like a month, right? I would just spend 2 months. I have done that before. So now I realize, but that I think is a big pitfall for mostly people who are building products, is that they would just get so much lost in the details, is that they would ultimately don't want to just launch. They're like, okay, let's make it perfect. Let's add one more feature, right? And they don't even know if the base idea works or not, right? So it's very important that you just keep shipping fast, validating fast. Then if it doesn't work, just change it, right? But if you just go in that perfection kind of thing, right? I think that's where things can go like very wrong. You can just waste a lot of time in that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But some naturally in public is also applied, but it I feel like is a little bit correct. And I absolutely speak by experience. Sometimes it's just like you're constantly, so when you ship very fast and you're putting out the up of the things break, and then you have there's now bed three. Another thing is you get to the movie gets really big really fast because everyone wants trying new things and you are constantly battling issue left, right, center, and sometimes that can really be draining out from the focus that you might want to have, like maybe more. So one thing I've learned is always start with like a smaller set of users who you can go back on almost an everyday basis and then kind of like start expanding on that. Uh, like coming to the last version of uh the session is what is your like top featured actions for putting right back? Cool.
Maybe Nishikant can start. I need a time to think.
Yeah, I think this should have been my tweet, actually. Yeah. But I think so. I mean, what I've seen so far in last year, I think based on that, we again, I mean, we are building for RWA space. So I would be a little biased here, but still, I think that real world assets space in general, like tokenization of real world assets, is gonna be like 10x bigger than it is right now. Uh, Basic facts for that to happen is like there's so much institutional adoption that is happening right now. Folks who are like sitting with ton of money and who actually think in a very structured manner, now they're allocating money to crypto, and they are looking at RWAs as like a big sector. So I think is like that is one prediction that I have, that it would be like almost as if like 10x or more bigger than it is right now. Uh, Second, I think this AI agents things that is happening right now, uh, the current state of agents that are right now, I think would be replaced by more, uh, I would say, more useful agents than just Twitter accounts tweeting about market. And I think third prediction is that the US admin that is coming, I think that would just boost uh, US crypto like to maximum level. I think it has been slow for a while, but I think like US should pick up the barrel again. I think it will lead the way, I guess, because the new system that's sitting there right now is just like completely pro crypto, and that's positive for the industry. Yeah.
I believe that because of the Trump community play, so the total stablecoin supply could grow up to 2x by end of 2025 because of the favorable and supportive environment, which could enable a lot of on-chain funds. I'm talking about credit fund that fund as that. Like it's not like just hedge funds and like VC funds, but like on-chain funds which are planning to kind of figure out opportunity with marketplaces like us. Because it becomes like a regulated and supportive environment, people will try and do this experiment, is what I believe. And third, I think when it comes to like tokenization and RWA kind of a stuff, I see like huge growth is happening in 2025. Even in India, Nandan Nilekani announced Finternet. Finternet. So everything and everything they want to get tokenized. Training, borrowing, lending, art, real estate and stuff. With Skolana, they have a partner right there. So I'm just like excited to see like what's India's stake in 2025. Hopefully there is something will come up via Gift City, especially around asset tokenization, which will enable us to do something or the other.
Isaac. Again, thank you so much guys for coming up on this podcast.